It's becoming difficult by the day getting a skilled worker job with visa sponsorship. And in the backdrop of this, employers are becoming shady about how they treat migrants who are working with them with the intent that they will be sponsored after working for them for a period of time. This is some of the recent developments, and some persons has been shortchanged because promise were not kept. Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new to this channel, in this channel I talk about ways you can migrate to United Kingdom through the skilled worker migration route. I also talk about ways you can study abroad, lifestyle, and ways you can settle in when you arrive in the United Kingdom. If this content is something you like, you can subscribe to this channel and give a thumb up to my video so YouTube can recommend to a wider audience. So without further ado, let's get started. Some employers in the UK are becoming shady in how they treat migrants because of certificate of sponsorship. Some have even gone the extra length to promise certificate of sponsorship after you've worked for them for a particular period of time. I'll be sharing two scenarios that occurred here in the UK, and one it's somebody that actually related to me directly, right? It's one of my audience. A few months back, she chatted me up to ask me what would be her fate if she applied for a switch of visa 2 months to the expiration of her current visa. I told her there's no issue. Once you submit your application, even one day before your visa elapses, you are still in line and your stay is still valid. And she said, okay. Few days back, she chatted me complaining about what her employer do, and I'm like, what is the issue? She said when she started working with this employer, they come to an agreement that she will work with them for a particular period of time and she will be sponsored. With that in mind, she keep reminding them at every given opportunity about the sponsorship, like in form of refreshing their memory that promise sponsoring me at a particular period of time, right? And when the time comes, they start giving her some different story that they cannot sponsor her. This lady I'm talking about, her case is really peculiar. She could not complete her study as at when she is supposed to do so, and she was given an extension. So she applied for a 6-month visa for the extension she had to complete her study. So this employer is telling her at a particular period of time she'll be sponsored. So as at when she contacted me with the intent that 2 weeks before the expiration of her stay, that's when the employer will issue her a certificate of sponsorship for her to make a visa application. So, and I told her yes, she can do that. Unknowing to her, the employer never had the intent of sponsoring her. They only want to waste her time and use her to achieve their purpose. At the end of the day, dumped her. So 2 weeks to the expiration of visa, the employer told her blank that they cannot sponsor her. The company have stopped sponsoring. But trust, this is the same company that have promised this person sponsorship after she has worked with them, and she has worked with them for 11 good months, right? At the end of the 11 good months, they told her they cannot sponsor her because the company have stopped sponsorship. Now, what is the issue? When the issue come up, so many persons were saying, take her to court, do this, do that. And the question that comes to mind, was there any written agreement to that effect that you'll be sponsored after you've worked with them for a particular period of time? Was it contained on your offer letter? None of this was written. It was only verbal agreement. It's not tangible because it's your word against my word, right? So it became a difficult scenario, and she could not do anything because the employer have told her if you're unable to get an extension for your visa, you cannot continue to work with us after the expiration of your current visa, and they are not willing to sponsor her. This is really devastating. 2 weeks to the expiration of her current stay here in the UK, your employer is telling you they cannot sponsor you after they've promised you sponsorship if you are able to work with them for a particular period of time. This is what most employers do. And I also got another information from a fellow YouTuber, almost similar scenario about a lady that worked with an employer, and the employer promised to sponsor her. This very lady is on a post-study and work visa. She has worked with this employer for almost 2 years, right? 2 months to the expiration of post-study work visa. That's when the employer come up to tell her they cannot sponsor her because the company have changed their policy that they can only sponsor on a senior role because it's a junior recruitment consultant, right? That at present they can only sponsor senior recruitment consultant. This lady has been working with them for close to 2 years. 2 months to the end of her current visa tenure, they are coming up with this, telling her they cannot sponsor her because of her role. Her role is no longer eligible for sponsorship in that company. This is what most employers do. They want to spend your time. They want you to work for them. They want to use it to achieve their purpose. At the end of the day, they will tell you to look for alternative. So guys, I'm bringing this as a learning point. If you are here in the UK as a student working for a particular employer with the intent that you'll be sponsored, even at the point of starting a new job, if an employer is telling you they are going to sponsor you, please and please guys, let them put it in writing. If it's not contained on your offer letter, politely ask them to put it in writing that after working for them for a particular period of time, you will be sponsored, right? On that, you will have a ground to hold them for breach of either contract or breach of trust. But if you rely or you bank on word of mouth, this will not hold any water at the time they disappoint you. There are so many persons today working for employers with a promise that they'll be sponsored after working for 5 months. It's even common now. If you want to get a job in the health and care sector, most employer will tell you you need to work with them for either 3 months or will tell you 6 months, right, before you'll be sponsored. Most time they tell you this with word of mouth, no written agreement, nothing was documented to that effect. It's not contained on your offer letter. They only tell you maybe at the point of employment or during interview that we'll sponsor you, but you must work for us for this period of time. Guys, I will advise you take that word of mouth to bank. Try as much as possible to tell them to put it in writing so that you see something to hold on to when they come up with something different from what you guys initially talked about or arranged initially. So guys, it's no longer funny. If you are planning to come to the UK as a student, right? Once you arrive here, you're able to get an employment with an employer who promised to sponsor you. Please, I'm begging you, tell them to put it in writing that if it's 6 months, after working for them for 6 months, you'll be sponsored. If it's 3 months, even if it's 1 year, please let them put it in writing. Because some of these employers, they know very well that we need this sponsorship to be able to stay back here in the UK, right? And as such, they know we are kind of desperate to get the sponsorship so that completion of our study will be able to see something that will keep us back. So as such, some of them would want to use it to achieve their purpose. After that, they want you to move ahead without fulfilling their own part of the obligation. So if you have this written down in black and white, you can use that against them. But if it's not written down, just word of mouth, sir, ma, you cannot do anything to this effect. Of late, most persons going for interview for job with visa sponsorship, they'll come back telling you the employer said they need to work with them for 5 months, 6 months, 3 months, as the case may be. This has never been the case before now, but of late it's becoming more rampant. Most employers want you to work with them for a particular period of time before they can think of either sponsor you or not. So guys, don't rely on word of mouth. Let them put it black and white so that you will not spend your time working with them. At the end of the day, they will tell you they are not going to sponsor you. Also, if you are working with an employer that promised to sponsor you after a particular period of time, guys, don't stop your job hunting. While you are still in that job, hoping that your employer will sponsor you at the end of the period agreed, still be looking for a job. Still continue your job hunting as if you've not gotten anything. Because at the end of the day, if your employer changes his mind or her mind, right, you will be the one at the losing end. So don't give that gap, don't give that space open or relaxing that, oh, you've gotten a job and you'll be sponsored. Not until you get your certificate of sponsorship handy, guys. Don't stop your job hunting. You can as well use that to hasten up your employer to sponsor you. If you're able to get a job with a different employer who is willing to sponsor you, you can come up to your employer, tender your resignation, or let them understand you are leaving because you've seen someone else that want to sponsor you. Most time, your employer will be forced to issue the certificate of sponsorship, most especially when they've assessed your performance that you are indispensable, right? They want to go the extra mile to see how they can keep you. So if you are working for an employer that has promised to sponsor you after a particular period of time, guys, don't stop job hunting. Apart from even failed promise, policies changes, right? If you are working with an employer that promised to sponsor you in 6 months time, who knows, different policy can come up with the way the UK government changes their immigration policy every now and then. Any policy can come up and your eligibility that you are banking on now will not be able to get you a sponsorship. So guys, if you are working with an employer as I speak to you, right, with a promise that you'll be sponsored after a particular period of time, guys, I would advise you keep on your job hunt, right, for a sponsorship job. Not until you've gotten your COS handy, guys. Don't stop job hunting. Don't rely on any promise, either written or unwritten, from an employer before you continue your job hunting. Always be on the search for job until you get your certificate of sponsorship handy and make your visa application, so that at the end of the day you'll not be at the losing end. Just imagine, what will this lady do 2 weeks to the end of her stay in the UK after she has been here for close to 1 year and 6 months as a student, and now 2 weeks to the expiration of your visa, your employer is telling you they can no longer sponsor you. The other lady, 2 months to the expiration of her post-study work permit, your employer is telling her they no longer sponsor junior role, is only on a senior role after she has worked for close to 2 years. All of this is happening. I'm very sure there are so many persons living in the UK that had this same encounter, but they cannot speak out. So guys, you need to use this information to guide yourself and share to everybody you need to share to your contacts. You never can tell who needs this information to guide against those employers that are engaged or involved in this kind of practice. So guys, we've come to the end of this video. If this content is something you like I just say, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give a thumb up, and share with your contact. See you in my next video.